Mix it up.
Yes.
Made a mistake, I think. That's what he told me. This is the first week.
So topic?
Yeah.
Switched up?
This is first. I don't know why they did that. I wrote one and...
This came out of order maybe.
What? But I wrote 1 and 2. I always write 1 and 2. How's the
She
difference?
doesn't look if the paper comes in the order. She doesn't look. Shem Irgin Shirtel, I can welcome everyone to today's shiur from Rav Yakov of Smith Shlita. The schedule by mistake had it out of order. This week the topic is zmankrias Halacha. Next week will be the Shavuos B'ez Hashem. So today's shiur is zmankrias Halacha. We'd like to give a yeshikach to Rabbi Avram Shechatowitz for sponsoring today's shiur. Lili Nishmas Imoy, Yishadina Basar Beisavul Hasholem, regular yotzei. Today Chav Beis Tevis to Nishmos Tzur B'tzar Chaim. We'd like to give a yeshikach to Rabbi Eisner for sponsoring today's shiur. Lili Nishmas Mashkiach, Rav Matasyo Chaim, Rav Yakov. So the brachos, yotzei is also today Chav Beis Tevis and Nishmos Tzur B'tzar Chaim to have the great schus. Sponsoring a shiur, call Irgin Shirtel 718-851-8651, email ist@yeshiva.com. Harav Smith.
As you know, that as the day gets longer, the Zman Krishma gets earlier, and that makes the Zman Krishma challenging. And I'd like to talk about the sugya of the Zman Krishma, not just the mitzvah of Krishma, but the Zman Krishma, and there are many, many shayos, as we'll see, which the easy part of today's sugya is that it's really the answer to all the questions going to be one word, as we'll see, the word ufkumecha. But to make a long story short, the almost all Rishonim, and that's the way the Shulchan Aruch Paskins and Siman Samach Zayin, that Krishma is definitely a mitzvah d'oraisa. That's why if you have a suffix, if you yotzei Krishma, sveika d'oraisa l'chumra. The mitzvah of Krishma is based on the pasuk uvidibarta bam, and Chazal darshan, and the pasuk says b'shachvecha uvkumecha. So Chazal understood the pasuk that there are two mitzvahs d'oraisa. There's Krishma at night and Krishma in the morning. The Brichodash and Siman Samach Zayin, the Avodas Harif, Rambam, the Rosh and the Rambam, the Shar Poiskim, that Krishma is d'oraisa, and that's the Chayr Pasuk. What has to be mentioned is that not only is Krishma d'oraisa, but even the Zman Krishma is also d'oraisa. And the truth is, it's very mistavra. Because since the Tzuras HaMitzvah, the Torah describes the mitzvah as the Dvarta Bam Uvkumecha when you wake up, so the mitzvah is when you wake up. And after the Zman Krishma is just too late. In other words, saying Krishma with all kavanas after Zman Krishma is like shaking lulav on Purim after Adal Yada. It's just the wrong time. Kavana is wonderful, but it has to be the right time. And the Tzuras HaMitzvah of Krishma is Uvkumecha. The Chinuch says this in Mitzvah Tavchav, Ha'oiv al zeh v'leikar Krishma b'chol yoyim u'b'chol layla b'zman shekavu l'chachamim bitla seizu. So he means kavacham, not that the Zman Krishma is the Rabbanon, but Chazal understood what V'kumecha really means. The Chayodim says it as clear as day in Chaf Aleph Zayin, tzarech l'dagdeg u'lizoher ma'oid shleyacha zman ki hi d'oraisa d'chsiv uvkumecha. So that's pashut that the Zman Krishma is d'oraisa. There is a chiddush of the Kesef Mishnah in Hilchos Tefilah, in Hilchos Krishma, Perek Aleph Halacha Yud Gimel, who asked a very interesting question. The pasuk groups together the two Krishmas d'oraisa that we have, Laila and Yoim. B'shachvecha, Gemara darshins, B'zman shmei adam shaychvin. So d'oraisa, Krishma at night is kol halayla. We'll soon see. Chazal said you should say it before Chatzos, but Krishma at night is definitely kol halayla. Why? B'shachvecha. Frag the Kesef Mishnah. So why don't we say that Krishma by day is also kol hayom b'kumecha? B'zman shmei adam are awake. And this leads the Kesef Mishnah to say that mid'oraisa there is no Zman Krishma. Krishma by day is kol hayom, like at Laila. He has another raya. The Gemara says, why is this Zman Krishma, as we know by day, 3 hours, because B'nai Malachim get up then? For the Kesef Mishnah, the obvious question, we're not all B'nai Malachim. We paskin that we're not B'nai Malachim. So what does it mean? You have, why is it 3 hours? Why is it because of them? So he says, must be, he says, that Lamaisa, the Zman Krishma is not Deraisa. However, as the Magen Avram and our Simon, the Taz, the Simon Nunches, the Cyrus Tshuva says that he forgot the Rambam and the Shlomo Zalman, Halicha Shleima, it's Amid Shinla, Amid Bey, says it emphatically, Taz, Magen Avram, V'chol Gedolei Achrayim Dachu Es Dvarav, they pushed off the words of the Kesef Mishnah, V'chichu Mikol HaRishonim, Shezman Krishma, even by day, is the rise. The big kasha, what's the difference? Shachvecha of kumecha. So here the Magen Avram and Taz say something that makes it so pashit, and like the Taz says, he can't understand how the Kesef Mishnah could ask such a kasha. And it's very simple. When you at night, people are sleeping. That's true. Some people go to sleep early, some people go so late, but at night, throughout the night, there are people sleeping. But by day, we can't say people are waking up a whole day. It's not true. You wake up, it takes a half a minute. Some bacham need an hour to wake up, but to wake up takes a few seconds. Now, once you're awake, we don't say you're waking up. What do we say? You're sitting, you're standing, you're running. In other words, the difference is, the demand kima is when you're waking up. Once you're up, you're awake. But you're not waking up, you're not constantly waking up. So, Zakta Magen Avram and Taz, that's the chilik. Taka b'shach v'cha, people are sleeping, they're in that inclined position all night. But you don't see people are waking up all night, all day. They wake up once and then they are awake. That's not Zman Uvkumech. So this is clear. We have Krishma is the Raisa and Zman Krishma is the Raisa. And this has to be understood from a different angle. Because the Mishnah Chagigat of Testament Beis, Taicheting Pasuk and Keles, Me'uvas La Yuchal Liskain, there's something that Mamash leaves irreparable damage. What is this terrible thing? So the Mishnah says 2 terrible things. Either someone that does a terrible Aveira and Nebuch he has a child, a Mamza, which is an eternal problem. You can't rectify the mistake of a Mamza. So that's Me'uvas La Yuchal Liskain. A second example of Me'uvas La Yuchal Liskain, Chas Hashem Tamachacham HaPeresh Min HaTorah. Obviously he learned Torah and he left Torah. Achmanu Litzlan. The Gemara in the Testament Beis Chagiga adds other examples of Me'uvas La Yuchal Liskain. Zok the Gemara, Zeh Shebitel Krishma Shel Shachris Oy Shel Arvis. He missed Krishma by day or night. Oy Shebitel Tefilah Shel Shachris Oy Tefilah Shel Arvis. Or else he missed davening day and night. Now this, of course, speaks volumes of what Krishma is. A person misses Krishma once, and that's a Me'uvas La Yuchal Liskain, somewhat comparable to a Mamza, or Rahman Otzan, a Tamachacham, a Peresh Min HaTorah, and this alone is a chizik for itself. But what I think is important to mention is, what's Taka de B'shat? A person that didn't miss Krishma, he missed it only once, Me'uvas La Yuchal Liskain. So you have to see this occasionally, the Chinuch and Mitzvah Tavchav. He says, what's the Shrashi and Mitzvah of the Mitzvah of Krishma? Twice a day, why? He says, the Rebbe Shalom gave us a schus twice a day to give us ourselves an injection, a chizik. Why? We live in a very seductive world. The way he explains it, there's a person is a Baal Chayma, and there's so many heavily oil that are attracting a person, and a person has so many nisyonis. And twice a day we need that injection or that vaccination to protect us. And when a person looks at the Krishma, all that goes into the Krishma, the Kabbalah Malchus Shemayim, Shema Yisrael, V'ahavta Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha b'chol nafshecha b'chol miyodecha, it's just a complete change in a person. And it's supposed to be, he says, that the Krishma in the morning gets you the whole day. At night you need another one. I've got a sword that Eglei Tal quotes his father. That's why there's no Krishma by Mincha, because the Krishma by Shachas is still in effect. You have to say it good enough, it lasts, but you have by day and night. And then the Chinuch in fact adds, this explains why Krishma probably is the only place you find this, that the Torah is mechayev us kavana. Without kavana, not yotzei. Zok the chinuch, it's pashut. It's not just lip service, not just mouthing the words. Krishma is having an impact, actualizing it, making it real. Therefore, it has to be with kavana. So now we see a person needs Krishma, especially in our world, which is terribly seductive. Every Krishma counts. But I was the spoil, the Zoya, I don't learn Zoya, but it's quoted in the Achrayim. The Zoya in Parshas Balak tells the following story. Two Tanoim, Rabbi Yitzchak and Rabbi Yehuda, were traveling, and they came to a city. No, a gadol comes to the city, so everybody went out to greet them. So a Yiddish Shemama, as well as Yiddish Shemama, so the Zoya, there was a mother told the child, go get a brachos from tzaddikim. So the child runs to these two Tanoim, and he looks at them, and he says, Mommy, real loud, I can't get a brachos from these people. They didn't say Krishma today. And we learned in the Cheder, if you don't say Krishma, we have to put you in Nidu, in Chayrim. I can't stay next to these people. The mother must have been beat red. What is the son talking about? But the Talmid Chacham heard that. Chavku yotzei, they hugged him and they gave him a bracha. And he says, you're right. We didn't say Krishma today. Because we are shluchei mitzvah. They were obviously collecting for Achlas's Kala. That's why they were traveling. And the pasuk says in Krishma, so I once declared, what's the big emoifus? The child's chush harech, he's able to sense they didn't say Krishma? Or maybe the Gedolim's level of godless. Don't forget, if he had this perception, he saw everything. And the only thing that was wrong, they missed this Krishma, that they were an oinus. You know what the real emoifus is? None of the above. The real emoifus is, look what one Krishma does to a person. They were potter from Krishma. But it was so noticeable that even this child was able to perceive that they didn't say Krishma. That's Shanli Mar Chagiga. When a person understands every Krishma counts, he understands that missing even one is Ma'uvas La Yuchal Liska. But now we also understand that the Bittul Krishma is not only missing Krishma, but missing Bizman. Because the Tzuras HaMitzvah is Bekumecha, and that has to be done. So now we see two parts to the mitzvah of Krishma, Likuva Midaraisa, the Zman, and of course the saying. Now people ask, is there any yotzei? Krishma gets early. So I looked into this, and I found the following tshuva, the Cyrus tshuva, that was the son of the Ksav Soifa, Simon Lamed Gimel. I guess in those days it was also a challenge. So someone asked him, is there any Eza Heta to be Oivan Zman Krishma? So he writes back, and I quote, Le Metzinu B'Shum Shita, Oideya, Oi Paisik, Sheyesh Havamina, that it's mutter to miss Krishma. So he really puts it down nicely. There's no Shita, Deya, Paisik, even a Havamina. And he says, and that's the truth, because you need every Krishma. And he says, L'chayra, why even misses Krishma? Is it a Muvas L'Yuchal Niskan? Can you do tshuva? You can do tshuva on a bit lasei. He says, you're right. You can do tshuva on a bit lasei. But you don't have the effect of Krishma. It's almost like we say, Oin is lav, command the Ovid. Oin is achmana patre, yeah. But lav, you didn't do it. Imagine someone must take his heart medicine, otherwise he won't make it. And one day he was a major oinus. Okay, but the Malach Mavas comes. No, he didn't take his medicine, he can't go on. So, this is why it's Ma'uvas L'Yuchal Liskim, because the Maisi doesn't have that injection. And in the bottom, he has a letter he wrote to the Rav in Pest. And he says, I was by your city, and I said, I must give you Musa. In your shul, you have the schedule for Shachar 7 o'clock, Shah Sheva or? How can you say Krishma so late? How can you daven so late? You're not going to make this my Krishma. He says, every place that I've been at, daven's earlier. How do you daven 7 o'clock in the morning? Now, I guess in Pest, Zman's a little earlier, but he insisted on him saying Krishma Bizman, I guess with the brachos, and so much so he gave a Musa. So Lamaisa, there isn't any heta to Mizman Krishma. That's one of the Taryag mitzvahs. Now, of course, this needs chizuk, especially I guess our sons have a problem bein hazmanim. One brachos says, how do I manage bein hazmanim? I says, do you worry about how you eat matzah on Pesach or sit in the sukkah? It's the same mitzvah. Someone asked the Neiv Yehuda, it's the Chuvas it's Simon Gimel in Archayim. There are people getting old in the kila, and they want to push up this man tefilah davening because Krishma's too early. So he told them, Mamash, one of the shortest tshuvas Neid Yehuda, Ein oim l'adam chatei b'shvil sheyisk chavercha. Missing Krishma is a chatei, not stam a chatei, it's movus la yuchal liska. People want to know about the Zmanim, they need kulas, I said, I'll tell you 2 big kulas in Zman Krishma. What is the Zman Krishma? True, the word is bekumecha, but how do you translate that into practical Zmanim? So the Mishnah in brachos, daf testament beis, me'emes ha'koyes ha'shema b'shachris, mishayake ben tchelas l'lovin. The Zman Krishma begins what we call mishayake. Now, people that daven vasikin know what mishayake is, but even those don't have vasikin, we have the Shavuos mishayake. Mishayake is approximately, of course, hard to give a shir exactly, approximately 50 minutes before Nates. Some hold it a little earlier, but mishayake is the time to begin saying Krishma. That's the time of putting on talis and tefillin. Now, this is the Zman of Krishma that begins mishayake. What is the end of the Zman? What is Soif Zman? Zok the Mishnah, Ada Netzach Chama. Now Netzach Chama, if I'm not mistaken, the earliest Netzach Chama during the year is 5:23. Now it's 7:20, but it varies. So the end of Zman Krishma during some parts of the year is 5:23. That means you have to be up by 5 o'clock or something, especially by daven, certainly. So this is the Shita of the Tanakama, Rabbi Eliezer, that's the end. So there you have already one kula. We don't passlays, I hope. But what's interesting is, imagine a person is knocking on his Rebbe's door, 5 o'clock in the morning. Rebbe, you gotta get up, So Rebbe comes running out, what's the matter? Rebbe, it's almost Man Krishma. So the Rebbe looks and says, why are you waking me up? I have so much time. Here's the kasha. In the Agoda, they came running, they saw the Rebbeim were talking about the Siyas Mitzrayim, a mitzvah. Rebbe, he gives zmankrias mishal shachris. Well, not true. They had so much time. Well, why are they stopping them from saying the Agoda if it's still early? It just became morning. The teretz is pashut. Who was one of the Tanaim in the Mishnah? Who was one of the Tanaim in that story? Rabbi Eliezer. What does Rabbi Eliezer hold as Man Krishma? No. But it's first thing in the morning. Yeah, right. So he held Adanates. So he was telling them, Napshat is now is the Hajjan. You're almost going to miss the Zman. So according to Rabbi Eliezer, the end of Zman Krishma could be as early as 5:23. But Baruch Hashem, I guess for us, the Mishnah continues. Rabbi Yeshua Omer ad sholai shois. Why? They came malachim, derech malachim lamoid b'sholai shois. So now we have pretty much an extension of the Zman. Now sholai shois, of course, means shois semaniyos, and in America, the Zman goes much later than that, of course, and that's lamaisa the way we paskin. The Gemara Taka says, Omer and Daf Yudam Beis, Omer Rabbi Yehuda, Halacha Rabbi Yeshua. Now, Lamaisa, whatever this man is interesting. Why is the man limited? There is no other mitzvah deraisa that has a limited man. Think about it. So Krish Mishal Arvis is called Layla. Matzah is called Layla. Mila is called Ayoim. So it's always either the whole day or the whole night. There is no mitzvah deraisa that this man is limited. Of course, again, I know b'dikas chametz, but that's the Rabbanans. The teretz is, it's the key word b'kumecha. That's the tzuras mitzvah. Once people are awake, is no longer a mitzvah. And therefore, logically, the Krishma should end by nates, because this is the chiddush, this is the mitzias, that in the olden days, they woke up by nates. Don't forget, people didn't have electricity, didn't have lights. When it got dark, it was hard to function. They went to sleep. So they were early to bed, early to rise. But no doubt about it, the bulk of the people were up by nates. And that's kumecha. And that's why Rabbi Yeshua has to find a heta. What's your heta to push off the 3 shoys? Because malachim get up then. But all the achrayim ask, we don't paskin kol yisrael b'nei malachim. And even if we did, they're only minority. Says the Prichodesh of Anifla. B'kumech is lashon yachid. You don't need Gans Klai Yisrael getting up then. Taka the world and Yidden for sure got up by net. But Baruch Hashem, there are some stragglers, the malachim, that get up later. Oh, we extend the Zman. So really the big kula is that we don't paskin nates, but we paskin the shalosh shoys. That itself is a big kula. Now, Lamaisa, the Rabbi Yoina says this on that Gemara, that even though they're only a minority, but Lamaisa, that's enough to extend the Zman. And as I told you, we paskin like Rabbi Yeshua, and that's the Shulchan Aruch in Siman Nun Chesif Aleph. But what's interesting, the Mechaber says, mitzvah amuvcha lekroisa kivasikin. Now this is something which is really a different shit, but I want to mention it briefly. If you'd ask me what's the preferred Zman for Krishma, it's not any time before, not this time of the year, 9:05 and 9:41. The Mechaber says the mitzvah amuvcha is before Nates. In fact, some poskim hold that the whole vasikin davening is not for the Shemone Esrei, it's to get the Krishma in the right time. Because you want to say Krishma a few minutes before Nates, but then you have to have smichas gula tefilah. So the vasikin Maila is for the Krishma. Okay, many poskim, if I cared, that the Krishma, that the Shemone Esrei is the ikam, and you have to say Krishma to Saima Gula, but no doubt about it, that the preferred Zman is somewhere in between Mishayakir and Nates. Okay, we don't get up then, many people sleep a little later, but at least the Zman Krishma should be a Zman Krishma. So here the two kulas are, number one, I should mention, as we said, that really the other choice would be Mishayakir or Nates. And the second kula I should mention is that it says Shalai Shois. What does it mean Shalai Shois? Does it mean the end of Shalai Shois or the beginning of Shalai Shois? Some poskim hold this Zman Krishma is the beginning of the third Shois Mania, which is not today 9:41, it's actually 9:05. But Lamaisa, the poskim say that we paskin Shois Shois means the end of the third hour. So really, our Zmani Krishma have two built-in kulis that are not muskim. I should tell you, some hold it has to be before the beginning of the third hour. I'm always despoiled how you have to understand that the Zman Krishma, again, I also don't get up early, but the right Zman Krishma is closer to Netz. The Mishnah in brachos says, a katan is nashim avadim uktanim petumi Krishma. What does that mean, katanim? So we think, what do you mean? Katanim shleigil lechinach apatim Krishma. But Rashi does not say that. Zogt Rashi, afilu katan sheigil lechinach lo'itilu al aviv lechanchai bekrishma. He's not together with the child. Rashi is saying a chiddush nifla. A child until bar mitzvah, presumably, is not chayiv in krishma. Frek Rabbeinu Tam and Tosfos, what do you mean? What happened to Gila Chinuch? But Lamaisa Rashi is Rashi. What did Rashi hold? The teretz is, since the ikazman krishma, again, not just mitzvah and muvcha, but the ikazman krishma is closer to Nates than it is to our Zman, and that time is unreasonable for a young child. So if the child can't do the mitzvah properly, he has no chiyuv. There's a big yisoid of chinuch. Not that he could do b'diavad. Chinuch is when he could do the chatchila. And I think the biggest raya is, the most obvious kasha is, katan yedel and aneya is chayiv in dal minim. And the kasha is, nanuma not part of the ikka mitzvah. Yotzei, just picking it up. Why you have to make nanuim? So the brisker oven stencil, if he can't do the mitzvah properly, then he's not chayiv in the mitzvah. Chinuch means he should do it perfect. And krishma, by day, he can't do perfect, because he can't do the ikazman. Now, Lamaisa the Mechaba in Siman Aleph, C Beis, quotes 2 days. And he says that really, la halacha, we go with Rashi, but Royu, Linoi Rabbeinu Tam. But that's a lesson to us, that the proper Zman is earlier. So at least we should take the sensitivity of making the Zman kalacha, because that's really, much earlier is the right Zman. And I'm also going to spoil about, and this is a Chiddush Gadol, the Shulchan Aruch in the end, the Ramah, in the end of Siman Mem Vav, said that the minig is that during Kabbanis we say the pasuk Shema Yisrael and Baruch Shem. Some say also V'Hafta, and some say all 3 parashas. Why? It's not the time for Krishma. That not in davening. So the poskim explain based on Rishonim, because the davening might go a little longer and you might miss Zman Krishma. So it's a pella. Gans Klais of a Doire Doires said emergency backup Krishma in Karbonis. Why do you think you're going to miss today? I mean, you're not singing like davening on a Tuesday morning, but you never know. But that was the Zahiris they had for Krishma. So Baruch Hashem, we have the following, that Krishma and his man is Daraisa, and Khalil, a person missed it, moves a Yuchaliskoin. And now let's try to apply it more specifically. So the first thing I would like to mention regarding Krishma Shel Arvis, because there's no doubt about it that the Zman of Krishma at night is Kol Halayla. Yet the Mishnah and Daf Beis and Brachos, we all know it, that although you can say Krishma Kol Halayla midaraisa, the Chachamim said you should not say Krishma after Chatzois, lahachik adam in Aveira. So Rashi, what Aveira? Because you know how it is at night, he does this, he does that, I have time, and before you know it, he falls asleep, and he missed Krishma Chas V'Shalom. So Chazal made an Issa D'Rabbanan. They changed the pasuk. Shachar means Kol Halayla, but they said no. Say Krishma before Chatzois, and this is paskin in Shulchan Aruch Reish Lamed Hey Siv Gimel. That's important to mention because people don't realize when it comes to Lamaisa. Let's say you're landing in a flight, and it's going to be early morning. So Baruch Hashem and Taka the eternal credit, there are minyanim here in Baruch the Shem Shabbos. Minyanim for Ma'ariv the whole night. So great, I'll go, I'll daven Ma'ariv with a minyan at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, no problem. Good, wonderful. But one thing you have to do, before Chatzois, say Krishma. Just like some people that daven 9 o'clock, 9:30 Shabbos and Yom Tov, they say Krishma before, because you have to make Krishma Bizman. When you're davening Ma'ariv, b'minyan, which is wonderful, and after Chatzois, you're missing Krishma. I mean, you're yotzei b'di'evet, but you don't want to do an aveira. So when you see you're getting late, you make sure to say Krishma before Chatzois and daven anytime after Chatzois. Or anytime a person thinks, there's a minyan of Shabbos, I'll go later. Not a good idea. If you could say Krishma with the brachos, bizman before Chatzois, that is better. And that's Pasha. This also explains why the Machaba quotes Rabbeinu Yoina, this is all in Siman Nun Ches, this is Siv Beis, that even if you're not davening early vasikin and you're not going to make the earliest man, Zok the Machaba, try to daven, say Krishma, as soon as possible. B'mehera kol ma sheyuchol. Now this is not only because these magdim and the mitzvahs, but this is better to stay with the bekumecha, because the later you get, the less people are waking up. The end of the third Zman is yotzei, but it's basically a minority. The closer you can get to saying Krishma Bizman Bekumecha of most people, the better off you are. Now this explains another thing. The Bell calls it a terach minyan. I don't like that. It's really a Gemara and a Mechaba. But it's what's known as the minyan that davens early. In other words, they can't daven vasikin, especially now, this time of the year, vasikin is around 7:20. So people have to be on the way to work at 7:20 or even earlier, and they can't daven vasikin, they have to daven earlier. But if the first man, the earliest man is vasikin, how can you daven so early? How can you say Krishma so early? So this is a Gemara. And the Gemara, Daf Chesem Beis Masech the brachos, the Gemara says that Lamaisa, we see people that daven before the night, they daven closer to Alois HaShachar, another Alois HaShachar. How can you do that? It's too early. And the Gemara says it's the key word bikumecha. Because there are some people, the early birds, that get up earlier than everybody else. And they're up ready by Alois. So Zok the Gemara, and of course you have to quote Gemara properly. If there is an oynis, and that's the way the Beis Yosef quotes the Rif and Rambam, that if there's an oynis, a shasat chak, and you can't daven that late, you can't daven even vasikin, then there's a heta to daven by Alois. And the Shulchan Aruch in Siv Gimel quotes this, Mishu oynis, or he has to go. Now, of course, there is a big difference, because Lamaisa, davening and making the latest man, Magen Avraham and the Gra, that's not a b'di'evet, because this man goes until that time. But this man, again, what they call the terach minyan, is only an oinus. See, a person could daven until now this time of year 9:40. That's the Zman, save Zman. But the early Shacharis is only by an oinus. So people that many people don't realize this. They work for decades, and they always get up and daven the earliest minyan, and now they're retired. But they're so used to getting up early that they get up. So that's good. Get up and learn. But the daven before with the alois minyan is only b'shas oinus. The Yerushalmi in brachos perek aleph halacha hey says a chiddush. Let's say someone is saying Krias Shema before davening. Let's say he's davening like after the Zman. Like we have today, Shabbos, Yom Tov, many people daven like that. So he gets up early, he says Krias Shema b'Zman, and then he davens 9:30, whatever it is. Says the Yerushalmi, so once you were yotzei Krias Shema, and now you're davening, you're holding Krias Shema, and at this time of the year, 9:45, you're saying Krias Shema. It's worthless. It's not a Krias Shema. The Zman is 9:41. 9:45 is too late. So why are you saying Krias Shema again in davening? It's not a Krias Shema. So the Shalmi says, Lamoid b'tefilah b'terech divrei Torah. You're right, it's not a Krias Shema. You're not yotzei. You're yotzei, you said it earlier. But you want to start davening with a schus Torah. You say Krias Shema, and that's your booster to daven with more koyach. It makes a lot of sense, and that's taka d'minik. Even if you davening after Zman Krias Shema, we are makbid to say Krias Shema in the davening. Zok Yerushalmi, but you shouldn't do that. Why not? Mipnei had yotzei. What does that mean? So Zok Pnei Moshe, the simple people, Amaratzim, they don't know from Kunsim. I saw my Rav, he was saying Krias Shema at 9, 10 o'clock, and he's a Talmid Chacham. If he could say it at 10 o'clock, so could I. Now you don't know your Rav gets up early in the morning, says Krias Shema, vasikin, or whatever close to that. Now he's just davening because that's part of the tefilah. But Zok Yerushalmi, we can't take a risk in sending a unintended wrong message. Zman Krias Shema needs chizuk, not rifyah. And the Yerushalmi seems to feel when you daven after the Zman, don't say Krias Shema. Now brachos Krias Shema you're allowed to say because the Zman brachos Krias Shema is like Zman tefilah, so you have an extension of time. But Krias Shema, just do without it. L'maisa, our minig, as we'll soon see, is we do say Krias Shema, and obviously we have to hope that the Amaratzim will be told that it's not a Krias Shema, it's on lamed tefilah b'terech divrei Torah. But l'maisa, the Mechaber says in Siv Beis, say Krias Shema again. Mishnah Berurah says lamed b'tefilah b'terech divrei Torah. But Lamaisa, again, you see how Chazal was so careful to protect this man Krias Shema, because they said Karbonis, they have this interesting halacha, because Krias Shema is our kiyum. There's an unbelievable quote of the Goyin, this in Shari Rachmim, of the Goyin Tanhag is Ois Chav Zayin. The Goyin says, be careful with the Krias Shema and this man, because the Yitzhar says today, no, a little later, tomorrow, and once you lose the Krias Shema, you lose everything. And the Goyin says, Ulai, that was the Shoirish Peirosh Valana, that the reform and conservative movement did such damage in Germany because they were not nizir in Zman Krias Shema. Now that's what the Goyin says. I don't know where he got this from, but the Goyin said that the reform and conservative Churban was a lack of Krias Shema. Now, the Ruach HaKodesh the Goyin had, but basically it's based on the Chinuch. If you understand that that's our twice daily injection and vaccination for Chet, if you don't have it, then a person's vulnerable. Now, Lamaisa, the halacha that we know about this man has a different effect from a different angle. And that is the halacha of the Zman Krias Shema I told you, is we have to be careful not to miss it. Now, for many people, Shavuos, they learn a whole night, or learn, or say tikkun, whatever it is, and especially Chassidim, they don't daven vasikin, they go to sleep and daven in the regular time. So here the question is, let's say a person finishes his learning or saying tikkun, and it's alois. He gets home, it's ready 50 minutes after alois. So he wants to go to sleep and wake up in the regular time. The question is, since Lamaisa, he's going to go to sleep, he's going to sleep before mitzvah Krias Shema. And it's not so far from the Zman Krias Shema. The Zman Krias Shema begins Mishayakir. And Lamaisa Alois B'di'eved is good Krias Shema. So the poskim say that you can't just go to sleep. Number one, you have a chiyuv krishma. Number two, if he stayed up a whole night, he's probably tired. He might wake up and miss his zman krishma. So it's kedai, maybe la halacha, a requirement before going to sleep to say the 3 parshiyos. And that's what the Seres Tshuva says, and other places say this as well. Now the MS is, it's easy for me to say, so once you're doing that, wait till nates or close to nates and get the premium zman. But then again, you're tired from a whole night's learning, so to wait till nates, and maybe it's too much of a chumrah. So then you could say Krishma even right after Alois, even though Alois is only an Oinus zman, but this is an Oinus. And I found the Chiddush, I never saw this in practice, but the Aruch HaShulchan in Siman Nun Ches, Siv Tes, he speaks about what we call the Terech Minyan, and he says that you should only do it b'shas satchak, like we do Shavuos morning, they daven the vasikin davening, and we daven earlier by Alois. And he was inferring that they davened shachris, not vasikin, but Alois. I know, and the yeshivas at least that I was in, the minig is to daven and daven with the nates, vasikin. But this is definitely a understanding that so early in the morning you have to think about all night. A person's tired, so those that go to sleep should say Krishma, I guess as late as possible after Alois. But if you go right to sleep right after Alois, say Krishma right after Alois, and you have that backup of Krishma. Now, someone asked me a question, and Mama was proud to be in the same yeshiva with him. A brachos said he wakes up sometimes early in the morning, and he was thinking, what's the heter to go back to sleep? He woke up just for a moment, maybe you have to go to the bathroom, whatever it is. When you get older, you have children waking you up, a kid's up. But Lamais, he's up, and it's already Zman Krishma. It's already nates, or close to nates. Again, during, some parts of the year, nates is 5:23, he gets up 5:30. He has a chiyuv Krishma. It's already after the Zman. So, l'chari has a point. So, the only defense we could say is that he went to sleep beheta. This is a continuation of the sleeping. Now, that's clear. Once you start a beheta, you're allowed to finish. So this would make sense that would be the heta. And I found in the Dinim and Haggis of the Chazon Ish, in Perik Dalid, Sif Yud Gimel, the very brief lashon, HaMesayir Lifnais Boik, he wakes up early morning, Achash Egiaz Man Krishma, Vadayin Chafetz Lihimashech Lishoin, Omad, the Chazon Ish said, the Rasha is allowed to. And even though it's this Man Krishma now, so you're going back to sleep during this man Krishma, before Krishma. Why is he different than the people going to sleep by Alois? They have to say Krishma first. He doesn't say why. Rav Sternbuch and the Chuvas Chelik Beis, Simon Nun Beis, he says that probably the heta is because it's maschel beheta. Now here, Rav Sternbuch points out that that's good when a person wakes up, looks at the clock, oh no, it's still early, and goes back to sleep. So you could say it's a continuation. But let's say he got out of bed already, and now he's going back into bed, so maybe it's a new shena. Once a new shena, there's no heta. So Yitaka says tzarech beer, it's a tzarech in. He says, but whatever it is, when you do go back to sleep, make sure you have a good alarm clock that wakes you up. Otherwise, you have a problem. But Lamaisa, the Chazon Ish was matir, and there's no differentiation. But I looked a little more into this. The Chut Shani, I'm listening to Karyelis in Hilchos Shabbos, Chelik Aleph, Amud Reishud Gimel. He taka holds that chiluk is correct. If you wake up and you're still in bed and go back to sleep, it's fine. But getting out of bed and going back into bed is a new shena, and that's not a heta. So it's a little scary. But then he adds, he quotes the halacha that if a person is ain't daitim yusheves alav, he can't daven or say Krishma because he's not in the right frame of mind. So if you won't daven or say Krishma good because you're not well rested, go back to sleep. Behecher. So obviously they're all talking in a case where you're going to wake up later, you're going to have alarm clocks going to wake you up. But I think we're comfortable to say that even though there is a tzad to be mechalik between going back to sleep or getting out of bed and going back, but if you need to sleep, get to sleep. I would mention, Bank Kamenetsky once told me something, and Kadarki with his gewaltige pikchas, he said these words, Ich weiß nicht was ich bin. I don't know what I am, good or bad, but was ich bin is a dankan hagah that he had when he was a bach in the yeshiva. See, they didn't have alarm clocks in those days, and he was very makbid on this man. So he said whenever he woke up for the first time that evening, when he went to sleep, whenever he woke up the first time, he would get out of bed. whether it's close to the Zman or not close, he didn't want to miss Zman Krishma, and he got up that time. And he said, whatever I became was because of that anhaga. And I always wanted to ask him, what did he mean? Did he mean the Zehiris in Krishma, or the fact that he got up so many nights early to learn? So that's why he had so much learning. They both are true. But the Maisa, it's definitely a schus to be devoted to Krishma. They say the Stipler, when he finished learning, he learned late at night, he was afraid to miss Krishma, so he used to sleep in the street, on a chair, and we wake up by people walking by. That's not our prerogative, but no doubt about it, this Zman Krishma is something that we have to cherish. In fact, I saw an incredible shaila. They asked the Imrei Emes, let's say someone woke up and missed his Zman Krishma. He's totally tzabrach and he missed his Zman Krishma. Is it an eitzah? Now, of course, then it was a hypothetical question. To hop on a gamla parcha, but today you have a jet, and fly to a location that it's still before the end of Zman Krishma. Now, this is a short tshuva printed in the small sefer, not Piskei Tshuvas that we have, but Piskei Tshuva from one of the Poilisha. It's Simon Kufnun Beis. This is so Imrei Emes style. He has 3 shilas in about 4 lines. He has this shaila, and he says another shaila, someone that finished davening Motzei Yom Kippur and wanted to hear whatever Nila by some tzaddik, so he went backwards in time and ended up by Nila by someone else. Can he eat then? Because he finished Yom Kippur in his location, but he went to a place that's still Yom Kippur. And the third shaila, you finished Pesach, and you went to a location that it's still Pesach. Can he eat chametz? So he seems to be convinced that the Krishma Zicha doesn't work. And I think I know why. Because since the Tzuras HaMitzvah is Bekumecha, and you are holding post Bekumecha, what is it up flying to a place that they're still waking up? You woke up already. So then in the Gavra. Now the other two, he seems to also hold that Lamaisa, once he kept his Yom Kippur and his Pesach, I don't say he paid his dues, but he did his mitzvah. But many argue on that, and they say Lamaisa, these things are totally in the Mokai. Someone not long ago with the Concorde, someone could be in England, and I had someone tell me this, and he could fly to America Motzei Shabbos and land and catch Shal Shuddis. But once you're in a place where it's Shabbos, it's got to be Shabbos. But what's interesting is just the fact that people are asking these shilas because we don't want to have that chalila, that movas la yuchal liska. Question: someone woke up literally the last minute before the Zman, and he cannot finish Krishma within the Zman. He could start. Is it enough to start Krishma before the end of the Zman? Let's say 9:41, or does he have to finish the entire Krishma before 9:41? So the emphasis in Svara, what's the shaila? What, the rest of Krishma doesn't count? Every word that counts has to be said within the Zman. So the Charit makes sense that he has to finish. The Mishtabura regarding davening and Krishma, I can just do the Marmakoyim is Simon Nun Ches, Peites, Kuf Yud, and Reish Lamed Gimel. 4 places he says Beferish regarding davening and Krishma. You have to finish the mitzvah before the Soif Zman. That's possible. There is a beautiful chap, I saw the Aruch HaShulchan writes it in Kuf Yud, and the Kozhikova quotes this, the Buchacha says this, based on a incredible Toisvis in Masech the Brachos, Daf Zayin, also in Avodah Zarah of Dalit, where the Gemara says that it's a good thing the Barsham didn't get angry when Bilam wanted to curse Klal Yisrael, because had the Barsham got angry, Bilam's curse would have destroyed Klal Yisrael. There wouldn't be a remnant of Klal Yisrael. Frek Toisvis, and if the Barsham got angry, so what? How long is the Barsham's curse? A split second. The Barsham's anger is a split second. What could you curse someone in a split second? So Toisvis' second teretz is, once he started during the Zman of the Barsham's Kas, then he continue even after the Zman HaKas. So, Mida Toiv and Ruba Mida Prani is once you started the Krishma Bizman, you could finish. Now that's beautiful, but the question is, does that change the mitzvah is that Krishma is not a curse, Krishma is a mitzvah. Every word has to be said. So Lamaisa, the Magen Avram, the Prima God, the Mishtabur in a few places, and we have to treat it like a Safek Deraisa. So definitely once you're getting up, make sure to finish the Krishma before the Soif Zman. Now the big question, which is a share for itself, is Magen Avram versus the Gra. There's always 36-minute difference. So basically, the question is, how do we fear Zach? So if you think objectively, this is a real sveika deraisa l'chumra, because Zman Krishma, like Krishma, is deraisa. Rabbi Zalman used to put it in his nusach. He would say, if you would have a gorgeous esrog, and you showed it to the goyin, and he said, the goyin says, beautiful, mom is beautiful. Then you decide to go to the Magen Avraham just to make sure. And Magen Avraham says, this esrog is pasul. Would you take that esrog? So why do you say the Krishma that the Magen Avraham says is a movis lo yuchaliska? The Rabbi once said this story that the Rabbi Salam once missed the first man and he fainted. So Rabbi says, Nish emes. So the person says, why can we emes the story that happened? He goes, no, Avada. Nish emes that he missed, Rabbi Salam to ever missed the first man. Can't be. And that's why Rabbi Taka has a tshuva about it. He says we should be choish with the first man. This is Chelik Aleph, Simon Beis in the Mishnah Baron. Lamaisa poik chazi, we could say that even in the yeshivas, on Shabbos, and Yom Tiv, the davening goes with the grozman. They make Krishma with the grozman. But of course, Pashik Pshutai, it doesn't mean that we don't say Krishma before the Magen Avram's man. The meaning is to say Krishma before the end of the Magen Avram's man, without the brachos, and make a tanai that if that's the right Zman, this is my Krishma. If the right Zman is like the Gra, I want the later Krishma with the brachos should be the real Krishma, and this is a terrible vad. But the emes is that the Paiskim, the Chazinish, in his Sefer Yud Gimel, Sif Katan Dal, and Archas Rabbeinu, even more emphatically, the Ramosha has a tshuva. The Chazinish is quoted as saying that we paskin, that's the key word, like the Gra. Now, we don't have the plates to say that, but the Chazinish and Ramosha said that we paskin like the Gra. I guess that would mean that it's not a speaker deraisa l'chumra. So each his own, but again, beyond the Zman of the Gra is unthinkable. That's a movis la yuchal liska. Someone had the shaila, he woke up late, and hopefully he said Krishma before the end of the Zman. But he's davening in a shul that's davening 9 o'clock, 9:15. The whole thing is 10 o'clock. Okay, he said Krishma earlier, but the problem is since he's late, the rate he's going to end up missing tefilah b'tzibur. So the question is, can he skip the Krishma in davening? Think about it. It's 10 o'clock. The Krishma is not a Krishma. L'chol hadayis. Why do we say it? Like I told earlier, la'amoid b'deich devrei Torah, which is very nice. But if he's going to miss tefilah b'tzibur, what are his priorities? So Lamaisa, this is the end of our Mishnah. Hakoyer mikan ve'elech lo hifsid ka'adam hakoyer b'Torah. Basically, it's only hakoyer b'Torah. So the Welt asks, of course, why do you have to stress hakoyer b'Torah? So I'll tell you a pshat, and I'll tell you said the pshat. Be'emes, we sometimes underappreciate what a Krishma is. The Gemara in brachos that Yudam Beis says, "Hakoyer Krishma by Nasa." If you say Krishma in the right Zman, is yotzei mi'hoisik b'Torah. Krishma has a power more than limud HaTorah. Now, although Talmud Torah can make a kulam, but the Gemara is saying Krishma has a greater power. So now the pshat is like, if you said Krishma bizman, you got something bigger than learning. You have Krishma. But let's say you Chalila missed this man, so you say Krishma, I'll divrei Torah, which is great. But you missed the boat. You missed the better choice, you missed the Krishma. Who says that pshat in the Mishnah? The Gemara, not me. So the Gemara, Amar Mani, God l'akar Krishma by Nasa, and the Raya is from our Mishnah. Since the Mishnah says if you miss this man, you have kar b'Torah, that means you got a consolation prize. But you didn't get the real catch would have been to say Krishma. Because Krishma is bigger than divrei Torah. And that's why people have to hear this, especially Bochum have a tendency to stay up late at night, and they miss my Krishma. Oh, what can I do? I was learning. But you made a wrong choice. Krishma has priority. And besides, why is learning late to steer it to Krishma? Someone asked Rav Moshe in the Chelik Beis, the end of Simon Chav Zayim, he likes to learn at night. Could he miss tefilah b'tzibur because he's learning? So Moshe says, I don't see the steer. I also learn. Why can you do both? So that mistake has to be uprooted. Krishma is, in a certain sense, bigger than limud HaTorah. Now, what else could this Mishnah mean? K'kar b'Torah. So there's a famous Chiddush quote from Hashem, the Heilige Chafetz Chaim. Chafetz Chaim says, let's say, typically Shabbos, you're davening and you're getting to Krishma, it's 10 o'clock. But Baruch Hashem, you said Krishma early, but you're saying Krishma now, 10 o'clock. If you say that Krishma with kavana to be yotzei of the mitzvah of Krishma, it's Bal Tosef. Because there's no mitzvah of Krishma beyond Bekumecha. The latest Bekumecha is 9:41. This is 10 o'clock. So the Chafetz Chaim says you have to have kavana like the Mishnah says. Kari b'Torah. That's good, that's beautiful. But don't say L'Shem Mitzvahs Krishma. I saw another cheshbon, and this Rav Vosna says in Chelik Yud Siman Yud Gimel, and he says, Yud Siman Yud Aleph, I should say, he says, Krishma has so many milas, even if it's after the Zman. He says, Avadan yotzei mitzvah after the Zman. But Kabbalah says, Al Chashamayim, he's saying the words, Levcha levavcha nafshecha, Yitzias Mitzrayim. So the Krishma is such a powerful package even after the Zman. But you don't have the mitzvah of Krishma. But look what it gives over. So the Mishnah is saying simply is a tayelis of saying Krishma even after the Zman. So that's definitely why the minig is, even if we're davening after the Zman Krishma, we say Krishma before, of course, and we say Krishma in davening, it has its own meaning and its own impact. Now let's come back to our shayla. Someone was late. He said Krishma hopefully before the Zman. They are starting Shemone Esrei in 3 minutes. He's holding someplace after Kelodin. He's going to miss at least starting tefilah b'tzibur. Would it be an option for this fellow today to skip the Krishma? Now don't forget, brachos Krishma you're not to skip, you have to say it. And you could say it because brachos Krishma is the same Zman like Zman tefilah. So you have more time, 10 o'clock is fine. But could he skip the Krishma? So I found Rabbi Zalman and Isha Yisrael, Perik Yud Zayin, Horas HaMachalef, the Orlotzi and Zayin Chavav both say Avada should skip the Krishma. Because it's only a toy if there's a Krishma, Lamoid. But tefilah b'tzibah has a greater importance. That's what I saw in these two Gedolim. I did see Reb Chaim Kanievsky and Das Noita Amid Reishud Gimel. He says not to skip, I'm not sure why. But one thing we could say, the other Svarim, we can understand very well, it's only a maila. But tefilah b'tzibah has a greater maila. And don't forget, as I saw the Letzian points out, that we both say Ashrei before Mincha, Lamoid, tefilah mitoich divrei Torah. But let's say you're going to miss tefilah b'tzibah till you finish your Ashrei, so then start Shemone Esrei. Tefilah b'tzibah has a greater priority. When someone had another shayla, and that is really part of a different sugya, but I think it's beautiful to mention. And let's talk about Tisha B'Av by Mincha. We don't wear tefillin by Shachris, we wear tefillin by Mincha. So Mr. Brewer says his chiddush in Tafkuf Nun Hey Sif Katan Hey, when you put on tefillin and you say and you daven Mincha, don't say Krishma together with the tefillin. Why? Because Mincha time is certainly beyond Bekumecha. So what's the reason why you're saying it? Divrei Torah, Krishma is Divrei Torah, but Tisha B'Av is also Divrei Torah. And that's why the minig HaYeshivas is, you put on tefillin, but not to say Krishma. Many people and many poskim take exception to this. You're not saying it to learn Torah, you learn Kamsa B'Kamsa. You're saying it als the Maila of Lamoid, with tefillah, or Stam with Krishma, with Krishma, with tefillin, but you're not saying it als Limud at Torah Mamish, it's just not the mitzvah, but there are Mailas to it. So therefore, the minig in many places that they say tefillin, put on tefillin, they say Abba Parsha is Krishma, and that l'chayra is understandable. But last but not least, I want to share with you a fascinating shayla. You know, they say you live and learn, which means you learn things that are mafarish, but you never knew them until you learned them. Here's a shayla. Someone comes to you, you learned the sugya. I have a terrible question. I woke up late. I missed Zman, both Zman Krishma. Is there any hope? I feel like I'm gonna explode from tsar. What would you tell him? So the chayra, you feel very bad for him, but you can't argue on a Mishnah. The Mishnah says in Chagiga Daf Tes, if you miss Krishma, Gemara, Mishnah, Yuchaliska, and Daf Testament base. Well, how could I help you? But the emes is, when you learn carefully, Adarabba, the Mishnah is giving us an incredible eitzah when you miss Krishma. What is that? So if you look at the Gemara, both in Brachos Chavav and Chagiga Daf Testament base, how could you say if you miss Krishma or tefilah, it's movus la yuchaliskain, The Gemara says in Masech the Brachos Chavav that if you miss davening, there's tashlumin. It's a whole siman kuf ches. There are actually 14 seifim, 12 seifim in siman kuf ches, all about tashlumin for davening. So for the Gemara, the obvious question. We know it's the mitzvah tashlumin, but there's Gemara says it's mufas yuchaliskan. And for the Gemara, hachama yaskina. When is it mufas yuchaliskan? When he's mavatal it b'mezid or b'paisheya. And that's why it's very meduyik. Zeh shebitel means he was mavatal b'yadayim. But an oinis has tashlumin. Zokt the Nachasvi, Talmud of the Bach, the Pri Chodesh and the Goin, all in our Siman Nun Ches. Oy bazoi, when someone was an oinis, it wasn't the Pesheya, he has an absolute right to make a tashlumin for the Krishma. Because the Gemara is speaking about both. Now we focus on tashlumin by davening, but the Gemara says both. And the Gemara is not mechalik. So not only is the Gemara not a problem, but it's our solution. Now, of course, the big kasha is, but how does it work? If you miss davening and tefillah's rachmi, so another dose of rachmi could be any time. But Krishma is a zman mitzvah. It's bikumecha. It's not bikumecha any longer. When are you going to do it? You're going to you miss Krishma by morning and say it at night. That's bikumecha. And Taka the Goin and Biar Goy asks this kasha. But Lamaisa Re'ez Apella, the Kolbay, one of the Rishonim, in Siman Yud, he says, if you missed Krishma, Fafalin. Rabbeinu Chaim says, make tashlumin. So here we have a machloikis rishonim if it's tashlumin. And Re'ez Apella, the Reikeach in Siman Reish Chavav says, and the Beis Yosef and Tov Reish Ayin Beis quotes him, if you didn't light Ner Chanukah one night, next night don't make it up. There's no tashlumin. Krishma is tashlumin, but not Ner Chanukah. Zok the Magen Giborim Sivkot Yudalid. Aha, I found the Reikeach. So that's going to be machriya, like Rabbeinu Chaim. There is tashlumin for Krishma. Now, the Goyin, it's interesting, the Goyin in his Lashon, he says, the Gemara said beferish, that there's tashlumin. Because like tefilah. But for the Goyin, but what do you mean tashlumin? Tashlumin for what? If a person didn't eat matzah, so he could eat matzah the next day. It's too late. How is that tashlumin by mitzvah? It's only rachmei. But then the Goyin says, but what's the yissa? So what shlech to say Krishma again? How do we paskin? So the Shulchan Aruch, the last sif in Siman Nun Ches, he says, if he didn't say Krishma, some say this tashlumin, v'yesh cholkin. That's the way he ends. Zok the Birkei Yosef v'sik v'katan vav. The Mechaber's derech, when he has two yesh oimrims, he paskins like the second one. And the second one is that there is no tashlumin. So the Birkei Yosef is paskening that there's no tashlumin. However, as we saw Nachasvi, Pri Chodesh, Gra, Magen Giborim, the Reikeach, that l'chayra would indicate that there is tashlumin. And Mr. Brewer says something which is a little bit of a chiddush to me. He says the minig is not to have tashlumin, like the Birkei Yosef and the Gra. But if you look at the Gra was not machriya. He just said both options, and his Talmud, the Mesek Eliezer with the Pirish on the Gra, says the Gra was not machriya. But Lamaisa, at the end of the day, the Poskim do say it's recommendable to make tashlumin. Now, what does that mean? Mr. Brewer says you're not yotzei Krishma, what you miss by day, when you say it at night. But just like you're not yotzei Shacharis when you make tashlumin at night, it's sort of a makeup. It's something in between. I hope it's not movers l'yuchaliskan, but it's definitely not the mitzvah. In fact, both the Magen Avram and the Aruch point out, what does that mean tashlumin? I missed Krishma and Shacharis, what do I do? So he says, by Ma'ariv, when you finish Ma'ariv, right after Aleinu, say another Krishma. Now I wonder, wait a second, you woke up late, it's 10:30, you woke up, you feel terrible. Why can't tashlumin be right then and there? The teretz is that the Metzias tashlumin is you connect it to a similar mitzvah in the next time zone. You missed Shacharis, Mincha. You missed Mincha, Ma'ariv. Because Shemone Esrei is all three. But when's your next Krishma if not for Shacharis? Ma'ariv. So it's interesting that Lamaisa, the person give an eitzah how to do it, but at the end of the day, the Hashulcha writes this lashon, Umi oilam loishamanu lahoyrais kidei harishay. We don't find anybody doing tashlumin. Now, I'm not sure why not, but I think I know why. Because Yidden don't miss Krishma. Someone told me recently, I thought it was Basheret, he says, you know what, when a truck driver feels like he's really a master at his job, he drives 100,000 hours and not even a fender bender. Okay, that's their godless. You know what his godless is? He never missed Krishma. So maybe that's why me'oyam lo shamanu. But if it ever happens, there is an option, taka, because lemaisa, for a mitzvah like this, we need any chizik we got. That's probably the pshat why tashlumin works. I couldn't talk to you all.
Shem Irgen Shirta, like you big as a character of Smith for today's share. Like you big as a character to Rabbi Shachatovis is sponsoring today's share. Ili Nishmas Imoi, Dina Basar Yosef Ala Shalom, yotzei today, Chopes Tevis, and Nishmas Shura B'tzara Chaim. Also like you big as a character of Baby Eisner, sponsoring today's share. Ili Nishmas Namashkiach, Rabbi Matasio Chaim, Rabbi Yakov, Zatzal, yotzei is also today, Chopes Tevis, and Nishmas Shura B'tzara Chaim. Tab the great Swiss is sponsoring your share. Call Irgen Shirta 718-851-8651, email ist@yeshiva.com. Kananya ben Akasha Ema Rotzak is Bochel Zakis is Israel Mefikach Hebram Taimid Shenema Alena Chofes and Sidkoi Yagdul Terviade. Okay, you'll get to it. Good. Yeah. Good. I don't want to say Too sharp. It's not what I'm passing. Okay, Rabbi say there's Zman. It's not over the Zman for the vasikin yet. So Zman Krias Shema.
First of all, Krishma as the Zman and the mitzvahs, the Raisa. The mitzvah is moving to Yucholiskain, and as we explained, it's the effect of it, the injection of it, the koyach of it, like the Mechinuch explains. And that's why even one Krishma, the child in that story of the Zohar, was able to discern that there was missing something, twice daily dosage. That's why a person, even missing once, it's something that just can't be corrected. The Kul Alma, the Zman is Ma'akev, even though the brachos you could say till the Zman tefilah, some say till Chatzois, but can't confuse the brachos Krishma, the Krishma itself is, the Zman is absolutely non-negotiable. The beginning, the Zman is Mishayakir, close to Netz. Again, the Zman goes till Gimel Shois Manis into the day. That's a cooler grada, because according to some, the Netz would be the final Zman. We saw how important the early Zman of Netz is, that even a katan shegil l'chinuch is part according to Rashi, because he can't make that early Zman. Obviously that early Zman is part of the mitzvah. So again, most of us are not makbid to make that early Krishma mamash, but at least make the Krishma bizman. Krishma is said every day in Karbonis, just in case, which shows how Chazal protected the Krishma. We say Krishma ASAP as soon as his man comes, if you can. We also saw the early minyan, they call it Terach minyan, but it's really the Gemara's B'shas Adchak Oynis minyan, because then already people are starting to wake up, so it is somewhat Bikumecha. The Yishalmi, it says when you miss Man Krishma and you're davening, don't say the Krishma in davening, because that gives the wrong message. But we know the right message is this is just Lamoid B'divrei Torah. But the Zman only goes until the end of the Zman. When a person goes to sleep after Alois, it's kedai to say Krishma before. You don't have to wait till night, but say Krishma after Alois. When a person wakes up early in the morning, the minig is to go back to sleep. I hope the limus chus is, even if you get out of bed and go back, it's still in a continuation, of the first sleeping. So we went sleep a heter. Flying to a place that the Zman is still before the end of the Zman doesn't help, because Kumech is a din in the person, it's a din in the Gavra that he has to wake up. That's time to say Krishma. When someone should know that you should finish the Krias Shema before the Zman Krias Shema, like finishing the tefilah. The Magen Avram versus Gra, Halavai, we should all keep the Magen Avram and Eretz Yisrael, rather they're much more makbid with the Magen Avram Zman, although the Zman is early in Eretz Yisrael, but at least the Gra Zman, we know that the Krias Shema is always said in davening, Lamoid b'toich divrei Torah, but if someone's going to miss tefilah b'tzibah, let him skip the Krias Shema. Of course, there's no Bal Toisif because it's say it as part of the davening. Krias Shema, the minig is to those that have the minig say by mincha on Tisha B'Av, because it's not just learning, but it has a meaning to the davening as well. La Halacha, we could make tashlumin if it was not a peisheya or a mezid, but again, hopefully it shouldn't be negeya because we say Krias Shema morning and night.